أوكي، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا ما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. Second, please. Okay, so before we move on to the next section, just a few things here. It doesn't mention the details here. So we have two scenarios. Scenario number one, you and the Imam are inside a masjid meaning a piece of land, whether there's a building or not, a piece of land, a geographical piece of land that has been set as has been made an endowment, right? Has been made an endowment. Let's Majid Badr, for example, owns a farm, and he says that field, this section of the field in the back of my farm, that is now a masjid. So now I can't walk there in Janaba. A woman on her period, she can't go there. I can go and do i'tikaf there, etc. It is an endowment. He cannot rent it out. He cannot rent out the field for a horse to use. He can't rent it out for someone to live on. He can't sell it. He can't do anything with it. It is no longer his property. Okay, that's called a waqf. That's called an endowment. Okay, so go ahead, Noor.
Just a quick question about that. So, in the West, all these, there are leases for so-called massages and stuff that doesn't fall under that
Yeah,
definition.
that's just a musalla. That's not a masjid yet.
Okay.
So it's a useful question to ask, right? There's a class in the masjid, and the sister wants to go. She says, "Is this a masjid or is this a masjid?" That yeah, this is a masjid. So this is the problem that we have is that the board doesn't even know what that even means, right? So the board needs to know what does a masjid mean, right? Um, when you say, for example, you can't donate charity to the masjid, or you can't give zakat to the masjid, or what does that mean? Like, what is a masjid? Often you might have an organization and it's called, you know, Los Angeles, whatever, masjid. What do you mean? That's just a name, right? The reality of it is it's my business. The reality of it is um, a combined set of efforts of good things that we're doing in this area, including zakat distribution. What do you even mean, right? So you cannot give zakat to a masjid, but there is such thing as a masjid, and there is such thing which is a piece of property which you don't own anymore, and there's other things that are something completely different. Okay, so anyway, so you're inside a masjid. In order for you to pray behind the imam, you have to be behind him, and you have to be able to access him. Okay, you do not have to be able to see what he's doing. You have to know what he's doing, but you don't have to be able to see him. Right? Right? So you can be above him, below him, it's fine. If this is not a masjid, this is now an endowment. Sorry, this is now a center. This is a place we're renting. This is someone's house. Okay. Now, in order to pray behind him, you have to A, be behind him. B, you have to know what he's doing. C, you have to see him or see somebody who can see somebody who can see him. Okay. So if you can imagine, there's a building. The imam is inside that building. You are at the back of that building and the door is closed. You could open the door to access the imam, but you can't see the imam, nor can you see somebody who can see the imam. You can't pray like that, right? That doesn't count. Similarly, which is kind of they go hand in hand, is uh, you have to be able to reach the imam without stepping back away from the qibla, right? So imagine, for example, I can see somebody through glass to my right, but then in order to reach the imam, I have to go backwards, sideways, 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 forward. So that doesn't count either. So when I'm praying, when I am in outside that, um, when I am in the when I am outside of the masjid, or we are both outside of the masjid, or he's in the masjid and I'm outside of the masjid, I have to be able to see somebody who can see somebody who can see somebody who can see somebody who can see the imam, and I have to be able to reach him without going away from the qibla. And if that's not the case, it doesn't count. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Sheikh, can I ask a question about that?
Go ahead, Bismillah.
How do you account for like the fact that well maybe this has already been answered by Noor when he asked this question that because I've been to masajid in the US that literally run out of room and you have to pray outside. Then
That
there's
is
no way the imam can be in your sight.
yes, but could you see somebody? So as long as the back door is open, right? So let's say for example the back door go there is 26 rows of people outside of the masjid, okay? And it's just you can't even see the masjid, let alone see the imam, right? But the person in front of you can see the person in front of them, and it goes forward, 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 and then the door is open. Soon as you close the door to the masjid, you are now behind the imam, yes. You might be able to hear the imam through the speakers, yes, but you can't see the imam, and you can't see somebody who could see somebody who could see somebody who could see the imam. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So
but then
I've
how
been
do
in this
we
situation, for example, in Jum'ah, in Brentwood Masjid, for example, you might have seen, you've been there maybe once or twice, is a Jum'ah, for example, the masjid is they close it because it's hot, so they have the AC on inside, and they don't want the back door open because it would, it's not very conducive to keeping the room cold. So you're out in the back, right? So then the prayer is not going to be valid. So what I would do is go forward, open the door, put a chair there, and just so that we can pray and make the prayer valid. Does that make sense?
Yes, I guess my only other question is what about the situation of sisters often who can't see the imam but just rely on hearing him?
Yes. So if they're in a masjid, that's fine. Otherwise, it's not.
Okay, thank you.
So is there
Sheikh,
other
can I
leeway in
follow
the
up on that?
masjid? Inshallah, I hope so, right? But yeah.
Ustad,
Yes, go ahead.
um, what if it's like a see-through door? Is that fine?
That's fine in terms of seeing, but the question is, could you access it? So if the door was see-through and you could open it, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but if it's just glass and you can't open it, right? So there's a between me and you, you're the imam, and I'm following you behind. Between me and you, there's a pane of glass. I can see you. But if I have to reach you, I have to go sideways and then backwards, or left and then backwards, right? That wouldn't count. But if I have to go sideways, forwards, and then sideways, that's fine. So I'm between there's a big thing of glass. I can see you. And then in order to reach you, I have to go all the way to the edge of the building and then go forward and then sideways. That's fine. Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. And then there's another condition about the distance, but it's not that practical as well. Okay. Right. So now
Sheikh
we are
Farid,
on
can I
to
ask one more question
Bismillah.
regarding that?
Hmm.
So would there be anything here in the West considered a masjid? Because there's not really, you can't really do waqf here, right? Even if you own, it's like, waqf would be like
I don't know. I
until
mean, an
the,
endowment, I don't know how it works, right? So even in the East, even a Muslim country, right? So along comes, socialism. What did they do with all the endowments? They just stole them, right?
Mhm.
So that's what happened, you know. So if you go to Morocco, go to Yemen, I don't know. There's there'll be lots of places, and I'm sure there's property now that you can go and buy, and you ask your great grandparents, they're like, yeah, that was that famous masjid or that famous madrasa. So the madrasa was a waqf. The socialist government came in and said this is all part of the government's property, and the government then the socialism became corrupt or whatever, and then became privatized, and then they sold it off to somebody, and now somebody owns it, and here's this guy who said, yeah, I got this from my dad, you know. So the situation in the West, like I mean, you can make a waqf, right? So if they can steal it from you is one thing. But so the question is, do you have to have a righteous, stable government behind you in order to make a waqf valid? The answer is no.
Okay. So then the difference would just be, do they own
Like right now, I can
the
say I'm going to
building?
make this phone, for example. I have a phone in my hand right now. I can say without registering it with the Malaysian government, I can say theoretically that I make this phone an endowment for any student, anybody, any blind person in Malaysia who needs to contact their parents. There we go. That's what it's for now. If you're not blind, if you're not contacting your parents, if you don't live in Malaysia, you can't use it. But otherwise, you can. There we go. It's an endowment now. So now I want to sell it to you. I can't. I want to use it for other than that. I can't. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Right.
So
So
like Brentwood Masjid right now would be considered a masjid.
I don't know. You have to ask the board.
Okay.
I don't even know how it's registered, right? So the issue is, this is what people they don't understand is that a masjid, at least it began as someone's property, right? So you had a piece of land in Morocco, okay? You said, hey, let's build a masjid here. So therefore it was yours, right? So it was yours. Okay, then you sold it to me, right? And then I turned it to masjid. So there was some point where somebody owned it, right? So now I can come and ask you, did you make it an endowment? And you're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, how do you not know what you did with it? Right? So whether you
Mm.
registered it or not, or whether something else, the point is there was a point where you said something, right? And I think in the Hanafi school, you can it doesn't have to be spoken, it can be done in other ways. And we do have a masala and Shafi fiqh is what if there was a masjid and it's just been there for like 500 years and nobody knows who made it, right? How does it work, right? Who's in charge of it? Who's this and who's that? It is still a masjid. And we just, that's just the status quo is that is an endowment, right? Um, um, So, but the point is, you're in Brentwood, you're in wherever you are, and someone the board says, I don't know. How do you not know? Were you the person who bought this property? No. Who bought the property? So and so. Okay. You go and ask so and so, you bought this property? Yes. So it was in your name? Yes. Did you make an endowment? Uh, I mean, they can use it, no, but did you make it an endowment or did you just let them pray in it? There's two different things, right? And then if he doesn't know, the default is it's his property. It's just his land and that's it. And they
Sheikh,
also
I
consider
don't
the
think
way they
there's.
deal with it. They might start, for example, they say, yeah, we're going to sell this. We're going to. So in the Shafi school, you couldn't sell an endowment. You can't do that, right? You couldn't be like, okay, we need to upsize. We need to sell this masjid and buy another one. You couldn't do that, right? And I believe in the Hanbali school you can, but I'll check with the Hanbali Mufti. I think they're pretty there's a lot of leeway, but the whole idea in the Shafi school is called waqf. Waqf means stop. That's what it means, right? This has now frozen. It used to be bought by so and so, sold by so and so, rented by so and so. Now it's frozen and it is here for worship or it is here for like a mushaf. The mushaf will say waqf on it. Often it'll say waqf. This is for Muslims to recite Quran. So now I want to sell it to a non-Muslim who wants to study Islam, or I want to sell it to somebody else. It says it cannot. It says you can't sell it, you can't buy it. This is an endowment for anybody who wants to read Quran. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And so another key thing is many people again we think in what's the word um Zootopia utopian terms like, oh, we're not in utopia, therefore this works. This doesn't work. So there's a problem. There's no problem. This is just life, right? And so, you have to just deal with it. Was property usurped in the past? Yes. Were there corrupt governments who stole money? Yes. Okay. It's not something new. It's not something new. The Umayyads used to have non-Arabs pay jizya just because they're non-Arabs. There was a non-Arab tax. It's supposed to be a non-Muslim tax, not a non-Arab tax, right? Crazy things have happened. Jihad has been used for bad reasons. People have usurped the zakat. People do all sorts of things, right? So the idea that, oh, I'm in the West and it's not Islamic, so therefore nothing is valid. It's like that's not, you know. So it's sometimes easier in the West than it is in the East. Like sometimes. Wallahu a'lam. And so, imagine the scenario that you made a masjid and then what's it called? They closed down your masjid and seized the property, right? Okay, alhamdulillah, you have the ajr. You made a masjid and they took it. Okay. Um, khair. So, is that clear now, inshallah?
Yes, Jazakumullah khair.
And just again, side point 5022, making endowments is a very good way of strengthening the ummah, right? So if you look at many of the great, great places in the world, there's all these endowments. So you go to Turkey right now, okay? There's certain places you can go and study for free because they have something called vakfi, right? Vakfi is endowments. So they have all these buildings, right, that are designated for these madrasas. So then maybe they're renting some out, maybe there's free places to stay, etc. That's how universities work, right? Princeton has all these, my uncle, he used to manage the endowments of Oxford University, right? So Oxford University is making all this money on the side. And so suddenly, right, school is free, or we can afford to support sponsor people. So it's a huge thing, right? Um, instead of paying the imam a salary, why don't we buy 4 houses, let him live in one, okay, and then rent out another one, and then whatever, one or two for his for or one or for his expenses or whatever it is, and the second one is going to be a madrasa, and the third one is going to be something else, right? Great. So I remember Sheikh Amjad Rashid telling us that in Yemen, what they used to do is whenever they build a masjid, they would build a farm next to it, or an orchard next to it. So now the produce, you can build a shop, right? Build a masjid plus a cafe plus a gym plus a youth center plus a school, right? These are all separate endowments. And then the gym, the cafe, they all spend on the masjid, and nobody's asking for any donations. Does that make sense? So that's how it should be. Is so that, I mean, again, it can go to an extreme, right? The church in Europe in the Middle Ages was a problem. They had all these endowments and they basically ran the whole continent, right? And so, you have Friar Tuck and all these people, right? That kind of, basically just raking in the dough because you own everything, and then you're going to be renting from the church, and you're going to be working for the church and providing 10% of your produce for the church because they own everything. Obviously that can also be abused, but you have the other side scenario where it's like, you know, it's just crazy. The loops that people have to go through, and I'm not a scholar, right? But you hear about scholars, and it's like the kind of loops they have to run through in order to just make ends meet. It's like it's kind of silly. It's like surely there should just be somebody who just supports them, right? That's how it should be, right? Either an individual or an institution, like a whole thing that people for the last 200 years have been doing things like building organizations. So then, khalas, anybody who wants to go and study these things, there's an endowment, right? Um, that's how it used to be, right? That's how it used to be. Just go and study for free, and that's it. And you know, an endowment for young men to get married. Here you build, you have a shop, a company, for example, a company that you created, and then it's basically this is for young Muslim men who want to get married. And so basically you go up to there and you fill out a form, you say, yeah, I'm going to get married, da, 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 then they help you afford to get married, for example, right? You can do all sorts of things. Orphans, new Muslims, you know, there's an endowment for new Muslims. Um, you know, that makes sense, inshallah. An endowment for cool people called Badr, right? Right? You can do that. Anything that's halal, you can make an endowment. If your name is Badr, right? Um, an endowment for all former Hindu Muslims, right? You can do whatever you want. Um, Moroccans who are not good at soccer, Noor, right? So this is specifically to help people get you better at playing soccer, right? Alhamdulillah. Sure, I get punched if I said that in Morocco because they're pretty serious about their soccer. Um, okay, Bismillah. So let's go on to traveling, inshallah. So it says travelers are entitled to shorten prayers consisting of 4 rakahs to 2 rakahs, right? So you can't shorten anything else. The journey itself, the 5 conditions meant that the journey itself does not constitute or is not sin, right? So for those of you on the WhatsApp group, you heard that you see the question there about joining for leisure, etc. You can see the discussions there. So the point is, are you traveling for a reason? So either I'm traveling for no reason, I'm just walking at my house, like, where are you going? I'm just walking. Or you're just walking for the sake of walking. I'm just walking for the sake of walking. I'm not doing anything. I'm just walking. So it's not a reason. Or that it's I'm traveling just so that I can join. So there's no reason. Or it's just kind of pointless, right? It's the disobedience in that, like, I'm gonna take my camel across the desert for nothing, right? What was the point? There's no particular benefit in that, right? So it's either pointless, totally pointless, right? Or it is haram, right? So this is included. So what's included in sinful traveling for sin? I'm going to Las Vegas to go and gamble. I'm going to kill somebody. Um, I'm going to. My journey is sinful in that, for example, my dad has said, Fareed, please live with me and stay in the same city as me. Okay, and you're like, no, I am going to live in another city. Why? Just because. I don't have any work there. I don't have any studies there. I'm just because. So the journey itself is sinful. A woman leaving the house without her husband's permission, right? So obviously we should be liberal with our wives. We should be easygoing. You need some time. Okay, whatever you had an argument. Listen, I'm going to go and stay with my brother for a bit. Okay, fine, sure. Let me know if you need anything, right? We should be easygoing. But what if it's not? You're not going to be easygoing. It's like, well, that's what you said last week. Basically, every 2 weeks I'm going somewhere. Like, okay, fine. I am saying no this time. So now the husband says, actually, I no. Yes, I let you go. And now you're going again. And now you're going again. Now you're going. It's like, no, you're not going. Oh, but I have a meeting in that place. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm saying no this time. Right. So then it's actually haram, right? He's put his foot down and it's now haram for her to go. And she just leaves anyway. Okay. So she's traveling. Every step she takes is sinful. Every rotation of the tire is sinful. She can't join or short on that journey. It's sinful. Right?
Would a trip, for example, like a fishing trip or going to the nature,
yeah.
um,
That's fine, yeah. So if you see the question I answered on the Shafi fiqh whom asked about leisure, so Ibn Hajar is like, yeah, you have some kind of particular reason. I want to go fishing. I want to go and spend time in nature, right? It's totally different to so what the tasweer that he has of it, the way that he phrases it is like, I want to just I want to make sure my eyes fall on the Eiffel Tower. So did you want to see what it meant to the French people? Did you want to see how the structure? Did you want to study the history of it? Did you want like, but it's just things like I want to just look at it for the sake of looking at it, right? So that's what he's talking about, right? So most people, but it's funny, Sheikh um, Sheikh, what's his name? Sheikh Mustafa Zam, he's in my WhatsApp group as well. He asks questions now and then or comments and something like that. And he's like, I remember this. This is 22 years ago. I remember explaining this. Explaining that like, basically anybody who has any kind of like purpose in life would always be like traveling for some kind of reason, right? You know, I'm gonna go and hang out with Noor again. Why? It's fun. You know, okay, you're gonna go and hang out with somebody. So it's kind of pointless. Like, why you like young people driving around? Like, why are you doing that? You're kind of wasting time relatively, but you're not actually literally wasting time. As opposed to, I want to open my eyes and see the Eiffel Tower. Like, you want to take a picture. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, literally nothing, right? So, that makes sense. So yes. So fishing.
Shay, can I ask one follow-up to that?
Yes, Bismillah.
So just so I understand this, it seems like the way that, and I read that answer that you posted on WhatsApp, that the way that the scholars have commented on it from the past is you would have to like you would have to be doing nothing to
Exactly.
meet the cry. I mean, you have to like so as long as you make the intention to do something that is halal, whether it's communing with nature, connecting to Allah, doing dhikr, seeing someone,
Yeah.
and the journey is blessed. But if you are literally doing what some teenagers do, which is go and hang out at Denny's because there's nothing to do at night, then
Yeah, but
there's no.
even that's Sham. Even that we say it's fine. It's like, hey, I'm gonna go to Denny's. Why are you gonna go to Denny's in the other city? My friends are there. They do. So even if you're like, so it's really doing nothing. So if you think about the two scenarios, is let's think about a better scenario. I'm gonna travel for sin. So then basically we're going to say, well, if you're traveling for sin, then the journey itself is sin, and therefore Allah doesn't recognize it, so therefore it doesn't count. Okay, that's number one. Or you're saying, why are you traveling? I just want to pray 2 rakahs and put a 4 rakahs. Like that's the only reason. So yeah. Or I just don't want to fast tomorrow. Right? I am not fasting. Just don't want to fast. Okay. So now you just make sure you travel solely so that you don't fast, solely that you can join Dhuhr Asr, solely that you can, like, that's not a reason then, is it? So the point is you have things that you're doing in life, goals that you're trying to achieve that are halal, and Allah's accommodating, right? But here you're not trying to achieve goals in life. You are just want to get around praying 4 rakahs. That's all. Like that's, you have no reason to do this. You're traveling for the sake of traveling, right? Traveling just so that you could not pray the 4 rakahs, right? That's not a reason anymore. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. But okay, great. Distance of a journey. Okay, so it does not entail sin itself. A runaway slave, right? So yes, a runaway slave, you cannot run away. Okay, what if I'm being killed I'm being beaten by my master? So yeah, okay, that's something different, right? I'm being abused by my master. You're obliged to run away, right? Because if you can't save yourself from any other way, then you're obliged to do that. So it's different, right? So I'm not saying, or a woman who's being abused by her husband, it's not safe to be at home, right? So the example they gave in the past was here's a woman, a Muslim woman who's been captured by non-Muslims and she's kept in some prison and then she escapes. So now she's traveling across no man's land by herself with no mahram, which is haram. So yeah, but what do you expect her to do? Stay in the prison, right? So so it's not safe and she has no mahram, but it's safer than where she was, right? So scenarios like that are different, right? A person leaving their family because it's harmful to me, right? That's different. But we're saying, I have no reason to be away from my parents. My dad says, please just live in the same city as me. And you're like, no. Why? I have no reason other than I don't want to be in the same city as him, period. He does not harm me. I don't have education in another place. I don't have work in another place. I don't have anything. I just don't want to be in that city, right? So traveling, that would be like traveling for that's the journey itself is sin, right? Etc. And one exception as well to women traveling is obviously is for work that we mentioned. I believe we mentioned it on some group somewhere. I can't remember what it is. A woman traveling for work, so she commutes every day for work. That's halal in the Shafi school if she can't support herself or her husband can't support her. Um, what else? A woman traveling for medical reasons, for spiritual reasons, right? So I remember Sheikh Abdul Karim Yahya talking about this in they call it it's called the Dawra, I think it is, the Dawra or the Rawha, I can't remember what it was. Basically, it's like every year they have this thing in Tarim in Yemen where people would come, including women, traveling by themselves to study, right? He said, I used to see, girls turn up and like they're a different girl when they leave, right? They have serious issues, spiritual issues, and they're like very, very different when they leave. So he said, this is not like a joke. This is not like, hey, let's go to halaqah. Well, this is cool. Oh, Sheikh so and so, the Sheikh is coming giving a talk. Let's go there. And it's like, you don't need to be there, sister. You're following all of these things. You're praying. You're doing hijab. You're going in the right direction. You don't need to be there, right? You're just traveling for no reason. Whereas he was saying, this is real thing. These are real changes that are happening, right? There is a reviving attachment to Islam in Europe thing. I'm going to go to Spain and we're going to go look at Alhambra. And it's like, yeah, you will change as opposed to certain sisters, they don't need to do that at all, right? So I remember the opposite happening, which was Sheikh Samir Nas. Some of you may be familiar with the name. Sheikh Samir Nas, he was in England. He used to come to England a lot, and so he was um, he came and there was this like 3 day deen intensive tajweed and fiqh and all these different things, and so one of the sisters asked from behind the curtain, they're like, "Oh, Sheikh, I've come here with my cousin, my female cousin, and whatever. We don't have a mahram. We came without a mahram. Is that okay?" He's like, "No." And he said, "Don't come next year." It's like, whoa, right? Don't come next year. Like that was coming down from like 2 hours drive from up north of England, right? So, we have to judge the situation. For some sisters, 100%. Sister, get out of your house, go to the masjid, go to the halaqah, go across here, go there, find a sheikh, sort yourself out because you are in a fix. Like you need to sort yourself out. And this is obligatory and you will change. And where you are, you're stuck. Other sisters like, sister, you're fine, right? You're doing fine. You just need to get on with it like everybody else, and that's it. And you shouldn't be traveling without mahram, right? Okay. Khair. So what about sinning on the journey, right? While I was traveling, I said something I shouldn't have said. Does that mean I can't join prayers? No, it does not mean that. It doesn't mean that. So what it means is the journey itself is sin. Okay. B, the distance of the journey be at least 16 farsakh, which is approximately 50 miles and 81 kilometers from the city limit, right? So the city limit, so cities in the past, like my city in England, um, Hereford, right? So we have a wall, right? A big wall. It has a cannonball in it, right? So somebody shot a cannonball at the wall, right? And so there's city walls, right? So you either live inside the city or outside the city, and there's a city wall. That's how things used to be. Okay, then cities expand, and then there is what is considered, right? There is a postcode or a zip code or a city limit, but then there is what is normally considered the city, right? You ask somebody, where are you? I'm in this area, right? And there are cities that merge into each other, right? So yes, like so the government might break them up. Like again, where I used to live in California, Oakley, Brentwood, Antioch. There's one thing. The city, it's like you're driving down the road. It says "Welcome to Antioch," right? Um, in England, I used to live from a signpost not far from England called "Welcome to Wales." Suddenly, you're actually in Wales, right? Um, but the point is, it's one area. Everybody would look at this as one area, right? So they talk about the past is, imagine people lived in a city, but they had their orchards outside of the city. Okay, they would go out to the orchards. What if it was a Bedouin camp and they had a rubbish dump place where they take all their ashes and put it there? So that the piles of ashes where they pile their ashes up, that's part of the Bedouin camp, even though it's not considered the Bedouin camp, right? The place where the kids go and play, right? That's the area around it, right? Right. So these are all what we mean by the area, right? So it is not simply that another place where I lived was basically 12 houses in the middle of nowhere. So there's these 12 houses, right? The government just built these 12 houses, and you drive up the road here, like 5 minute, well, 1 minute drive, you are out of that area. Like it's not a village, right? It's not like there's literally like if you stop here, it's just 12 houses, that's it. So you drive 1 minute that way, you are not part of those houses. So now you are traveling, right? You drive 1 minute that way, you're not part of that area either, right? So it can be like that. You have a tent on the top of a hill, that's where you live, right? And everything is there around you, and then you just walk down a bit, and then like I'm out of my area. I'm now no longer home. That makes sense. So whatever that line is that you can estimate, 50 miles from that point to the next point, or 81 kilometers from that point to the next point. Okay, makes sense to everybody?
Yeah,
Yes.
Sheikh, can I ask a question about
Just go ahead.
the distance? So if one uh, from the city limits goes to a place, let's say 70 miles out of the city limits,
Hmm.
so that's past 50, um, and then he's on the way back and enters, then stops somewhere that's like 40 miles away, but he's on the way back. Is he still traveling and he still
That is correct.
shortens
Yeah.
on
So we're
his
not
start?
we're not interested in how close you are. We're interested in your destination,
Oh, okay.
right? So let's say for example, you travel, you're going to 5 places. Okay. So you're going to go from your house, okay, from your house to a place that's 10 miles away, to a place, and then you're going to go to another place that's 20 miles away from your house, and then 30 miles an hour away from your house, and then 50 miles away from your house. Okay. Well, let's say 55 to make it clearer. Okay. So as soon as you get to A, before you even get to D, you're already a traveler because you are going on a journey which is traveling distance. So you're going to arrive in the traveling distance in 2 days, but that doesn't matter. Does that make sense?
Yes. So one would could already start shortening
Exactly.
when he
So
leaves
I'm going
his
to,
city.
so you're in San Jose, right?
Yeah.
So San Jose, is it traveling distance from Brentwood?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to go and spend the night tonight. I'm leaving Brentwood and I'm going to go to Pittsburgh. Okay. Then I'm going to spend another night in Concord. Then I'm going to spend another night in Danville. Then I'm going to spend another night in whatever else. Okay. And then, so then in 4 nights, I'm going to, but as soon as I left going to your, then I'm a traveler already. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. And it's
Shaken.
the city limits that would start that kind of
That is correct. Right? So
okay.
I'm driving out, and I get onto the four, but I look right and left, and I'm like, oh, I can see here's Antioch, here's this, here's that. I can see everything. It's all around me, right? There's these buildings all around me, and I drive further and further. Like now I'm on the freeway. Like look right and left, there's nothing, right? As soon as I'm out, I'm like, I am not in Antioch anymore. Antioch is way to my right, or something like that, or you know, something like that. Or Pittsburgh, for example. I'm in now in Pittsburgh. This is not Antioch anymore. It's not Brentwood. It's not none of those areas. Um,
Shay, can I ask one follow-up to Noor's question?
Go ahead, Mr. Nasham.
Um, so also the question is then, so obviously the destination matters as you said, and not the distance initially. But the question also is there any rule about the frequency? Like for example, my wife lives in Hercules. Palo Alto, where she works, is 51 miles. We've looked at it from Hercules. If she has to work there, let's say 5 days a week, is then she a traveler all the 5 days?
Exactly, yeah. So,
Okay.
because we live in a weird time, yes, it's like that. So if you think about it, the way it's structured is this is 2 days travel. Okay, that's what it's structured on. It's like I have a camel and I'm going to go 2 days away. That's how it's structured. So they're looking at it basically as the world. This is how people travel in general. Okay, we live in a time where it's not normal. So what happens is basically we're like, you're telling me that I'm traveler every day. So yeah. So I can join Dhuhr and Asr every day. So yeah. And if I commute in winter and I don't have to, and I leave my house before Fajr, I don't have to fast that day. So yeah, you don't have to fast that day. And that's every day. Like, yeah. But that's really weird. So yeah, it's weird because you live in a weird time. Right? That's just, that's just the reality of it. So we live in a scenario that the fuqaha used to speak about. They said, imagine if somebody traveled that distance in a minute, right? Which we can do, right? I mean, how 50 miles, if you're going 700 miles an hour, how long does it take to go 50 miles, right? So you can, jet or whatever, it's like, it's nothing. So yes, it is like that. And so it's a bit odd, right? Um, but yeah, we're travelers. So should you join? No, it's not sunnah. Should you shorten? Yes, you should shorten. So if it's definitely traveling distance, you should be shortening every day because that is agreed upon, right? We agreed upon that that it's either permissible or obligatory to shorten, right? But joining, you'd be like, well, no, I'm not going to shorten unless I need to. But again, I'm in England, and I'm in England. Let's say two scenarios about being in England, right? England is just I have like traumatized by being in England because because we're so miserable, right? That's why we tried to conquer the world. Um, in England, the days are either really long or really short, right? You're in Calgary, you're in Oslo, right? It's really hard. So it's today I'm fasting for the 14th day, my 20-hour fast. It's really hard, right? Like fasting is really hard. So I'm like, hey, I just realized I'm actually commuting every day. This is great. So that means I can actually break my fast. Say, yeah, you can break your fast. Like, okay. So as long as you're not doing it for your nafs, you're doing this because it's generally hard, then it's fine. Or like, bro, I mean, like, my friend, he, a very religious person, like somebody, upright person. He said, I was doing a job. I was in charge of um, I wouldn't say mentally disabled, but the kids who have educational issues. So it's like he pictured it like this. He said, I either pray with my door being kicked in, right? Or I join. He said, I'd frequently join. I'm commuting. I'd frequently join because, I'm in this situation where it's actually very, very intense. And so again, in England, you might be praying Dhuhr, Asr, and Maghrib, right? You already prayed Fajr on the way to work because Fajr didn't come in and while you left, right? So you left at 6 a.m. Fajr didn't come in and said 7 a.m. So you're on the road, you already prayed Fajr at the gas station, which is hard. And then you arrive at work, and then at 1, you're going to pray Dhuhr. At 1, at 2:30, you're going to pray Asr. And at 4, you're going to pray at Maghrib. And if you know, so in that situation, like this is genuinely difficult. Alhamdulillah, I'm joining. I'm a traveler. Okay, I'll take the rukhsa. Why not? Right? As opposed to, hey, rukhsa freebies. Let's go. Right? It's very different kind of attitude. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So somebody having an issue, saying Alhamdulillah, join, or she wants to demonstrate to her non-Muslim friends, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, the deen is easy. Look, because I'm traveling and I'm far from home, I can just pray in one window instead of two. Right? It's easier. Or she wants to help another sister pray. She's having difficulty. The sister doesn't wear hijab, for example, but she says, just come to my office. I'll close the door. We'll pray the Dhuhr Asr together. There's definitely room for that.
Sorry, Sheikh, can I ask one more question about traveling?
Yes, but I'm gonna put a poll on the thing. So everybody else has to vote whether we're gonna charge Noor and Sham for their questions. No, I'm joking. Your questions are very good, Noor and Sham, and they're not out of place. So Jazam Khair, go ahead, please.
Barakallahu feek.
As long as you
So I
don't
know.
charge riba.
Alhamdulillah. We're gonna charge riba and some. Bismillah, go ahead.
Um, so if one is there the like a number of days where or you're traveling, but then you intend to stay for quite a bit? Is it when you're like, oh, you're actually going to be a resident of that
Yeah. So
place? Is
now,
there that
for
concept?
example, I have for example, a bunch of meetings in Zurich. Okay, so I'm going to travel to Zurich. Okay, in Switzerland, and I'm here for a week. Okay, as soon as you arrive now in Zurich, you're here for a week. You're not a traveler anymore. So if you now stay, if you are with the intention of staying for 4 full days, you are now a resident. So that's it.
And then what if your stay is conditional? Like perhaps on the fourth day or the third day, you'll
So
find out.
like so you bought a flight that's flexi, right? You can change it, you can change it whenever you want. And literally, it's basically you are trying to come to this agreement with this business. You've been sent there every single day. You have your discussions, and then you talk to your manager, talk to discussions, and it's like any day you could leave. Then you keep shortening up to 18 days. Shortening. As for
Oh,
joining,
wow.
no. Joining is up to 4 days, and that's it.
Okay.
Okay. Um, the prayer being performed consists of 4 rakats. The intention is to shorten is concurrent with the takbir. So if you intend afterwards, right? So you're praying 4 rakat dhuhr, and then everybody gave salams after two, and you're like, dude, what's going on? And they're like, oh yeah, I forgot we're traveling, right? You got to pray the 4 rakats. You can't pray two, right? You have to intend Allahu Akbar. I am praying 2 rakats dhuhr as a traveler. And the one shortening prayers does not follow a resident or a traveler who is not shortening in the prayer. So I came to a masjid, right? I'm visiting Palo Alto, I'm visiting Zurich, I'm visiting KL, excuse me, and I'm only here for 2 days. So I'm a traveler, but I'm praying behind the Imam and he is praying 4. I have to pray 4. Right? So even if 1 second, you came in and caught last just before he said Assalamu alaikum, you caught 1 second of the prayer. He's praying 4 rakats, you have to pray 4 rakats now. Okay? Khair. So then he says, then next thing then is combining prayers, which is a different issue, right? So it says it is permissible travelers that are entitled to combine, meaning pray Dhuhr and Asr in Dhuhr time, or Dhuhr and Asr in Asr time, or Maghrib and Isha in Maghrib time, or Maghrib and Isha in Isha time. The noon and midday prayers during either two times, and the sunset and night prayers during either two times. Residents are entitled to combine the two during the time of the first of them when there is rain. Okay, so these are two separate things. So I'm a traveler, same discussion, I'm a traveler, all the same things apply. I can pray Dhuhr, Asr in Dhuhr time, or Dhuhr, Asr in Asr time. Dhuhr, Maghrib and Isha in Maghrib time, or Maghrib, Isha in Isha time. And also you can join when you come home. So again, it is England. Maghrib came in at 4 o'clock. Okay, you finish work at 5 o'clock. Then you commute home, 60-mile drive. So you arrive home at, so you finished at 5 and you get home by 6:30. It's now 6:30. You go and eat. You go and eat, relax a little bit, pray Maghrib and Isha. And you do that every day during the winter, for example, because, the Maghrib is at 4 o'clock, right? That's totally fine. Or you have a meeting in another city and you're going to come back to your city and it's traveling distance and you're going to join Dhuhr or Asr, it's fine. But again, there's a big difference between I can't be bothered versus this is the best thing that I should do at this time, right? There's a difference. I can't remember who it was, Ammar ibn Yasir perhaps, or one of the Salaf. I think Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As or Ammar ibn Yasir, one of the two. They said something like, never did a prayer time come in, save that I was like dying to pray, right? Like let's imagine a scenario, okay? Noor, inshallah ta'ala, has two wives, okay? He has two wives, and one of the messages to him said, can you not come tonight because actually there's some issues. And he's like, oh, okay, puts down the phone. He said, phew, alhamdulillah, I don't have to see her, right? So she asked not for him to come back, so therefore he's not obliged to. And he's like, yeah, I don't want to see her anyway, right? So he's not sinful, right? Like he's not like, oh, you're not being fair because you're spending another night with your other wife. It's like, I don't want to see her. And she called me up and said, please don't come because this happened, that happened. She's like, oh, great, very happy, right? So now we're going to call one of these wives Dhuhr. Like you're like, ooh, I don't have to pray Dhuhr, right? That's not very nice, is it? That's not a, well, right? That's not a nice attitude. So it should be like, I want to pray, but I know that Allah doesn't want me to pray in this scenario. Right? I want to pray as soon as the prayer comes, but I know that Allah wants me to do something else, right? So this is a recurrent theme that we keep talking about is leaving something that Allah wants you to do for something that Allah wants you to do more, as opposed to I can't be bothered, please give me a rukhsa, right? So now the issue of the rain is then specific to rain. So this is Dhuhr and Asr and Maghrib and Isha. When you are walking to the masjid or riding to the masjid and there is no shelter from the rain and it is heavy rain that would affect you. And so now you can join Dhuhr and Asr in the group, right? Even if there's no masjid. It may be that, for example, you don't have a masjid in your local area, but for example, the three of you meet up in the park every day. So that's where you meet up. And so we're going to go and pray in the park. And that's where we meet up to pray. And you're going to have to walk. There's no car, there's no shelter. You're going to go and get soaked. So you're going to go for Dhuhr, Asr, join, and then you're not going to go back until Maghrib. And then you're going to go out in the rain in Maghrib, Isha, and then you're not going to come back until Fajr, right? So that's the idea. As opposed to you have shelter, such as you're driving a car. You have shelter because there's whatever, the way that the city is built or the roofs are there. It's not raining very significantly. It's just cold. There's just snow on the floor, but you could walk over it, etc. Those conditions have to be there. And it's not a condition that it actually be raining in Asr or Isha time. It's a condition that it's raining in the beginning, that before you start the takbir of Dhuhr, while you're praying Dhuhr, and in between Dhuhr and Asr. So you went, it was nice and sunny. It was raining really bad, and so you said, we're going to join. Allahu Akbar. It was raining throughout Dhuhr. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, let's join. Allahu Akbar. And then the rain stopped as soon as you started praying Asr. And then it was sunny. And then afterwards you walked home in the sun and it was nice and dry. And then it was Asr time and you're like, well, I mean, am I excused because, like it's sunny now? So you're excused because you already prayed, right? So as long as the excuse is the rukhsah has to be there when you pray it. Similarly, when you're traveling, you join Dhuhr and Asr as a traveler. And now you arrive home at the end of Dhuhr. And then Asr comes in. And you're like, am I excused or what? Like, I mean, I'm here, right? I'm not a traveler anymore. So yeah, but you've joined Dhuhr Asr while you're a traveler. That's it. You're excused from praying Asr. Does that make sense, inshallah?
Yes.
Yes.
So when we say you can join for rain, driving in a car does not count, right? So here we have a problem. Okay, we have a problem with our Salafi brethren, okay? Or people who just don't know fiqh properly. So you're going to join Dhuhr and Asr because of rain. And so you apply the Shafi school and it doesn't apply. And the guy's like, brother, there are other madhahib. Okay, fine. There are other madhahib. He says, there's Hanafi. Like, why? Stop being strict, bro. Like, there's other madhahib. There's this and that. Stop being so narrow-minded. Okay, fine. There are other madhahib. Okay, what do the Hanafis say? The Hanafis say you can't join Dhuhr or Asr or Maghrib or Isha, nothing. Okay, khalas, there are other madhahib. Okay, what do the Hanbalis say? Hanbalis say you can't join Dhuhr and Asr for rain. That's odd. And then the Malikis, somebody can't do that either. So suddenly this person is doing something random, right? And again, we've spoken about this at length and we answered a question about this at length. And it's like, you're not following any of the madhahib, right? Because you are not a jack of all trades. You are like, I don't know, what's beneath a jack. I don't know. You're like, it's just nothing. You're doing something random.
Master of none.
Yeah. So it's not jack of all trades, master of none. It's like, I don't know what. Like you didn't even get into that thing, right? So it's just not even involved. So it's just random, right? It's like me talking
Jack
about
of none.
refugee, what's it called, relocation. It's like Freed, just stick to your fiqh. I never even studied. I didn't even enter the classroom. Dr. Sham didn't even start the classroom. There's no lecture to even begin. You just Googled it, right? So you didn't even you didn't do undergrad. You didn't read anything. You didn't study anything. You didn't read his paper. It's just you're not even here. You're not a jack to begin with. You're just a I don't know what, right? And so this is istighfaf ad-din. That's what in reality it is, like treating religion as a joke. Like I'm allowed to speak about something even though I have no clue what's going on, right? And again, there are people who will, do otherwise. But inshallah, there are other opinions, inshallah ta'ala. But it's important to understand that. Khair, inshallah, we'll stop here. Any immediate questions? Okay, wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.